in the wake of the decision last week by the president to force a resolution on an impending strike, essentially take the strikers' ability to strike away. These are 4 unions that were representing 70,000 of the 115,000 train workers. Those 70,000, not all of them, but it was a relatively close vote. But there were members of those unions who had voted against the deal that the management had offered. The White House basically disabled their ability to strike for all intents and purposes and imposed upon them a contract that did not address in any meaningful manner. I guess there's 1 day of sick leave, but generally when you need to be sick leave, it's because you're sick enough that you need to take 2 days.
Especially in just like the wake of COVID. Well, this makes it it should be for anything, but
everybody knows.
It lays it bare given what we needed with COVID.
The administration knows too. I mean, you look at what was in Build Back Better, you look at what the federal obligation to have paid sick leave is.
What Biden said on the campaign trail, which was 7 days of paid sick leave for everybody.
Exactly. And so there's been considerable blowback in not just in sort of like spaces like this, but in national spaces. And we'll see if that begins to increase the pressure on the Biden administration to address this. Here is Pete Buttigieg, Secretary of Transportation, obviously a key player in this, or should have been, and Jake Tapper.
The shutdown would have been devastating to the American economy, and I think everybody out there is glad that it has been avoided. But the question is, these rail lines, they're making billions of dollars. Profits are up for all of them, quite a lot in some cases. You and I have paid sick leave. My crew has paid sick leave. Why don't these railway workers deserve paid sick leave?
Well, let me remind you, the position of our administration is that every American worker ought to have paid leave, whether you're a railroad worker, a journalist, a federal government employee, or whether you work at Burger King. We believe that every American worker, certainly every full-time American worker, ought to have paid leave. The president has proposed that. The president has advanced that in proposed legislation. And so far, it has been unable to get past what has been unified Senate Republican opposition. We are going to continue to press for that. Again, not just picking and choosing one sector over another, but based on the basic idea that every single American worker ought to have paid leave, just like you have in pretty much every country in the world.
Right, but
for now, right now, the tentative agreement that was reached at the bargaining table between union leaders and companies contains provisions like this pay raise and other improvements.
Right. I get it, but saying that they ought to have paid sick leave and then getting in there and saying to the Warren Buffetts of the world, give these guys paid sick leave, or the White House is going to make you guys out to be the bad guys, and you're going to be the ones that are forced to blink after your reputations take a number of hits. That's a different matter. We've heard from multiple union workers who feel like the Biden administration has let them down. Gabe Christensen, a freight railroad brakeman who lives in Nevada, he told CNN, quote, "Here we have someone," meaning Biden, "who touted themselves as the most labor-friendly president for many decades. And he basically just betrayed us. There really is no difference between Democrats and Republicans anymore. They're just feeding corporate greed," unquote. What do you say to Gabe Christensen?
Well, if you don't think there's any difference, you should look at the difference between this president, who has advanced good-paying jobs, who has made sure the National Labor Relations Board is able to do its job, who has put in the first card-carrying union member to be labor secretary in a generation, who has upheld everything from Davis-Bacon wages to the kind of working conditions to make sure that unions can thrive, because he believes strongly in American unions, in organized labor, and is proud to be the most actively pro-union president in a generation. Again, that doesn't mean everybody got everything that they wanted. And we need to have a broader conversation about the labor models and the business practices of transportation companies.
Yeah, I mean, there's no point in listening anymore. I mean, if you want to know what a guy from McKinsey Consulting sounds like when they're spinning a bunch of BS, that's exactly what it is.
I was just going to say, it's so jargony. It's just so much like...
And also, he has
benign platitudes.
He has an understanding of the efficiency model that led to this very this very problem where they're not getting any paid sick leave because it's the kind of consulting that he engaged in.
Yes, but I think what's interesting about this is that you don't get that sense from that exchange that anybody listening is going to come away from that satisfied with an answer.
Oh, here's
that's the thing.
here's why you should be grateful that the Democrats are better than Republicans. He's in a no-win position in a sense there, but like this is the Biden administration. I know that this is probably not going to last and hurt them that badly, but they severely, in my opinion, underestimated the blowback they were going to get. They thought that the Jake Tappers of the world were going to give them fawning interviews about averting any economic disruption. They thought that they could ride on like approval from trade groups and suburban voters who were going to be happy that the economy was okay ahead of the holidays. And they have severely underestimated the amount of pro-labor sentiment in this country and how that's increased over the past few decades.
And somebody just emails in, District Jaboni, I hesitate to say this, but did Jake Tapper actually make a really good point? He gave Buttigieg the exact line the administration should have been leading with to frame it correctly, without a doubt. Not, as a political matter, even if they had not, they could have done that. And they could have easily imposed a contract that has that provision, or they could have followed it right up with a requirement that basically get rid of the waiver for the railway companies in terms of the federal contracting requirement. If you're going to use any federal contracts, or you have any federal contracts, which all of these rail carriers do, you need to give your workers 56 hours of pay, paid leave. I don't know how many, or 8 days or something to that effect. And so that's, and hopefully this pressure will lead him to make that decision. And we'll see. I mean, and I don't know, maybe he makes it after the holidays. I don't know.
I don't know what you're waiting for. It's an executive order. I guess he needs like another legal team to look it over.
Or there just needs to be more pressure, but we shall see on that.
Thank you, Jake Tapper.
In the fun half, we'll play maybe a clip of Biden sort of acknowledging and saying that fight isn't over. But, the fight's not over because you didn't end it.
Right.
I mean, the fight can be over. Nobody's really interested in the fight as much as the resolution of the fight.
Yeah.
That's the point. In a moment, we're going to be talking to Adam Hochschild. He's a lecturer at the University of California, Berkeley School of Journalism, author of American Midnight, The Great War, A Violent Peace, and Democracy's Forgotten Crisis. Probably my second favorite period of American history after Reconstruction. But to be honest, sort of feels like just a resolution of the post-Reconstruction era. I am now defining everything relative to.
It's a very distant second, then.
To Reconstruction.
Yeah.
Matt from Medford, Mass. says, "Hey, MR crew, the Boston University Graduate Workers Union (SEIU) 509 voting on unionization today, tomorrow, and Wednesday. Good luck." Spent a year of law school there.
Oh, great.
You don't care.
No, I just forgot.
You don't really care.
I care.
Oh, great.
It's Monday, man.
It is Monday.